Ok, xin chào các bạn đã đến với podcast của DOA Coaster Talk tuần này. Ở tuần này thì tụi mình sẽ gặp một khách mời rất là đặc biệt, người bạn của LA. Trời, khó lắm mới có thể hẹn được một buổi, tại vì bạn bác chức, gọi là bác ở bên Mỹ, và hiện tại thì mới về Việt Nam công tác khoảng 2 tuần. Thì bây giờ cho phép LA đổi sang tiếng Anh để có thể trao đổi với bác nghe. Hello, good to see you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Actually, it's really nice to see you again.
Yes, I'm so happy I'm here.
Yeah.
This is my first time in a month, believe it or not. So happy to be to join your shows.
Yeah. So as I shared with you, I think the last time we met was in April or May, right?
Yeah, it's April. Yes.
Yeah. The last time
two months ago.
Yeah, 2 months ago, and then I think the last time we were also sitting at the coffee at the Starbucks, and then we mentioned about many different topics, and I said,
yes.
"Oh, I need to invite you to my podcast too."
Thank you. It's happening right now.
Yeah, so after 2 months, time flies so fast, actually.
Yeah, it's been a lot of things has happened and planned to happen. Just a little bit about myself. I think So my name is Z. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, in the East Coast of the United States, a city where I lived for more than 23 years. A place which is very cold. It's literally we have about 5-6 months of winters, and sometimes we even see the snow in the April. Wow! And on average, each snowstorm can get you about like 1 meter high snow. So yeah, it's a very cold place, but the place where I think it is more like an epic center of the educations for the United States. Arguably could be the whole world. Boston is the place where I think you see most of the colleges, and you see a lot of high schools. There's where I'm coming from, right? So I'm actually as an entrepreneur, focusing on the ed tech industries. About 12 years ago, I found this website called Findingschool.com, a platform that connects thousands of private high school in the US and Canada with millions of Asian parents and families. So yeah, and also I do some investment, some sort of side project. So also willing to talk to some cool ideas here. Yeah, thanks again for having me here. Yeah,
that's where we met, right? I still remember, like, I think around last year I started LinkedIn, and then we just messaged each other, and then here we are.
Yeah, at that point you helped me to find a person, right?
I mean, like, the opportunity is always here and there. Even like it's not that way, it should be another ways. Like we are the same vibes, and also hopefully we can support each other in another sense.
Of course, yes. I'm here actually pretty committed, meaning that I have a couple of years down the road to establish ourselves in Vietnam, because unlike a lot of mass market products, I mean, we are in this education business. Usually, it's very based on the cultures, and everything related to culture change takes time.
Yes, sure.
And I mean, think about Starbucks not doing well here because the coffee culture here.
Yes.
Similarly, I think the way people think about education, and especially the secondary school education, is very different from the U.S. So I'm here at least for a couple of years to come, and so you're not gonna see each other more and probably support each other, you said.
That is one of the reasons why I want to have a conversation with you today. Remember the first time we shared with each other about your business idea? I think this is the first concept ever coming to Vietnam out of the normal flow when people want to study abroad.
Yeah.
So maybe let's explain a little bit further for the audience here.
Sure. Yeah.
Because Findingschool is the search engines platform.
Correct.
I understand.
Yes.
And this is not about the agency. So normally when Vietnamese people, we are seeking for the opportunity to study overseas, we will seek for agency first.
Yeah.
First, because no choice. Secondly, because the consultant at the agency will share about different school option. How was it? This school is, how is the price? How is the tuition fee? How is the living cost over there? And also assist from A to Z, the whole process.
Correct.
So I think this is the first one, the only one options for the parents bring their student. So they need to get through the agency, or I think like just small amount of them, like they go by family member.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like I always think about that concept. I think, okay, so for agency, how they can make money? They make money from the school percentage. It's like a commission.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah,
commission.
And they only have the network with a certain school, like maybe 5 or 10 school. I don't know, but it's also because they are the salesperson. They need the commission.
Exactly.
So in any house, they should go on with the client who pay them more money.
Yes.
Yeah. That's part I can recognize, but somehow in Vietnam we don't have another choice,
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, I just want to start with sharing some kind of experience, why I'm here, why I think we are creating a very unique value. I think during my very first trip, I got to meet some of Vietnamese friends. One of them is my close friend. She shared me a very personal experience. When she was in the high school, she actually came up with the idea to go to United States, California for high school. And she already come up with all of the plans, everything. But unfortunately, when she talked to the parents was kind of scolded back to her saying, hey, you cannot dream like that. You're in a crowd or something, like very mean response. And certainly I can definitely see the very disappointing kind of a feeling along the text here, and eventually she's not going to be able to make it. But I think this is just one of the examples of many young people in Vietnam that have a dream to going abroad because they feel not empowered. They do not have enough resource, data, or tools to make plan like hers as a kind of convincing case for the parents to say, hey, this is a good investment, So I feel that, this market is kind of in the early stage. There's so much demand in the future, but on the other hand, the way the current offers is not enough for the students and also for the parents to make the right decision. Especially, talking about, the price sensitive here. I mean, the only thing I think explain her kind of experience is all about the financial part.
Yes.
So when I'm coming here is not only give you all of this information, but also a tool for you to discover officially with the school to get financial aid or certain tuition assistant informations. So I think this is what we want to do. And also I think if she have used the sites, many years ago, that she could have been studying in the US right now, things has changed forever for her. So I think it's just one of the examples. I mean, on a very high level, our site, unlike agent and consultant, I'm not interested in placing any individual student to any individual school per se. What I wanted is here's how the system works, and here's all the school that you're available to learn, to compare, to study. Because I think pick the right school at a young age, like 14, 15 years old, it's such critical piece.
Yes.
I can talk about why it is so critical, because oftentimes people think about going to abroad is all about studies. It's more than that. Okay? It come back to thing is, I think it's very critical. So I think they should have rights to see the pictures, the big pictures. You talk about the agents kind of a structure here. Yes, I personally feel, most of people will just go to talk to agents whenever they think about study abroad. That's no problem with that. But all I want to say is, you don't want to only limit yourself to 2 or 3 schools, 4 or 5 schools, right? You deserve to see the whole forest before you identify 1 or 2 trees. But people always zoom into 1 or 2 trees without seeing there's a whole forest waiting for him to see it. So that's kind of the whole things. We here trying to do 2 things. One is providing a unique and unbiased contents, or more than content, could be some offline gathering, a student gathering, to give you a full picture about going abroad, the pros and cons. Not everything's so rosy. This is one thing. We want to educate and build up the community. The second thing, certainly, the site we're building is give you the access to extensive school informations, as well as a suite of tools that you can use to compare, to study, or potentially connect the school that you like. You know, I think agents still going to do some of the piece of their work. I feel like, you know, before they walk into the office, I think parents or students should be more educated, should be more informed, eventually should be more empowered to make the decision, which could be the most important decision in their lives for the family and for the parents. I'm not saying, you know, this is right or wrong, but I just feel like sometimes if you think about these pictures, you talk to some of the agents here, exactly happened in China 10 years ago. You talk to somebody, he or she might not really, he or she might never study in the US, right? Not alone, you know, boarding school. Boarding school, we're talking about like a 9 to 12. I myself have not been to boarding school, you know, but again, you know, without this experience, and then we rely on him or her to give you the advice which school to go, that picture is not really right.
Yes.
Right? That's dangerous.
Yes.
If you buy a house, if you don't like it, you can sell it, right? If you send the kids to the wrong school, there's no way. I mean, you can change the different schools. I'm actually helping one of the parents. Yeah, somehow, you know, her son goes to a wrong school and right now doesn't like it, had to transfer different schools. I mean, transfer over the school is very suffering process.
Yes, it's a suffer for the student themselves as well. I mean, like, in the age on the secondary school is very sensitive because they are like kind of like growing up when many things changing. The teenagers things, and then they change the school, they meet new friends, new teacher or something. It's also affects a lot.
Exactly.
So better like let it the right place at the beginning.
That's right. I think you pointed a good point. I think it's just all about a potential risk and potential gain. You know, different person had different tolerance in terms of gain versus risk. But oftentimes, I think the parents will have probably a little bit more rosy picture about everything. But I think sometimes it just could go wrong. And, you know, I just want parents to know about kind of in and outs about this thing before they pull the trigger to send the kids to the US. Same thing, you know, Canada or UK as well. So I think that is probably why I'm doing this. And I think we can talk about some sort of pro cons or, you know, going abroad at a younger age. Because I'm here now really helping you to go to college or graduate students, right? I'm here to help you kids to go to a high school or potentially, right, when the market develop further, that maybe the more and more parents want to send the kids to even younger age, which is the junior boarding school, usually like 13, 14 years old. But right now, the majority of them actually is going to the secondary school. The number-wise, I think maybe your audience would be interesting to learn about how many Vietnamese students study in the U.S. At the secondary school. I know Vietnam actually is one of the top kind of international student market for the United States. But if you're zooming to the secondary school specifically, before pandemic, we're talking about 2018, I think Vietnam had, I think at that point, sent about 4,100 or 200 every year to the US for secondary school, which actually was the number 2, or maybe very close. Probably Thai was Korea as the number 2 market. China certainly is the number 1. The total number is much bigger.
Yes.
But right now, because the pandemic, everybody got a hit. So Vietnam has kind of a drop about 50%, which is about 2,000 students every year going to the United States for high school.
For high school, secondary
school, yeah. In the US, when we call secondary, that means from 9 to 12. Yeah. So that's the market that we are in right now. I mean, if you think about 2,000 every year going to US, but could be 10 times the potential family are looking into this options. And not all the people will really do that. The people usually look at it, think about it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they say, hey, you know, I'm gonna just keep kids here and definitely gonna go to US for college, not necessarily from the high school stage. So yeah, hopefully that number give you some perspectives. Yeah. And I think I'm very confident that number will go back to pre-pandemic level in a couple of years. And also I think it even will grow faster because most of the people, including myself, are really excited about the economy here. I mean, although recently having some downturns, but I think eventually going to go up very soon. And a lot of the school that I work with, they just say, yeah, you have to look into the Vietnam market. That's why I came here last time, September, and I spent 2 nights in Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah. I didn't know anybody here. I was very amazed about this country and also the peoples. Oh, did I tell you this one? I think it's the last day I was here, and I was wandering on the streets because I stay in Intercontinental, and there's kind of a traffic center. There's I think at the rush hour, a lot of people riding their motorbikes. Yes. Yeah. I noticed from one motorbikes, the mom was riding the motorbikes and had the son sitting, maybe even standing in front of her, reading the books, passing the traffic light. I was like, wow, that's so cool. I know it's dangerous, but that actually shows how kids love study here, and and certainly very support from parents. Although I think that's very dangerous. But at that moment, I think, wow, that's pretty cool. Because Asian parents typically, they're very into this education for their kids. And also, I got a chance to look at some of the schools and also talking to other parents here. I mean, they definitely want to send the kids to a better option in terms of education opportunities. It's just lack of the access, lack of the resource. Just like my friend's story, right? There's no supporting framework they can use, they can leverage. That's why I'm here to do some things here. Yes. Yeah.
Or you remember my childhood time? Actually, the picture you see when the mom riding a motorbike with a kid on her back, right, and also reading book.
Yes.
Actually,
we did that.
But to be honest, in my point of view, there is two things. One is maybe that kids really love to study.
Okay.
Or maybe they got pressure from their parents or the teachers that, okay, you need to memory on those things before what time.
Tomorrow we have exam or something.
So I mean, to be honest, in our young time, it's me personally, and also I think one of my friends, we are not really think about future, about study or something, how to say. We understand that, okay, we need to study because
for the sake of study.
Yeah. Everybody needs to study, but we don't really think about, okay, study is good for you or something like that. Because the education program in Vietnam is, I would say, people need to follow this, either you like or you don't like. So from secondary, I started to see some of my friends going overseas. And then from my mind at that time, I said, okay, there is another way of learning, of study, not just follow the program from Vietnam. And that is another adventurous ways as well.
Sure.
In my opinions, as a Vietnamese, right, I see some family, they really want to send their student abroad.
Yeah.
But there is different way. Firstly, they really want to invest on studying and growing up the kid. But at that time, they also separate. It's early to send the student go from secondary. They're still small. They're still a kid.
Exactly. They're very protective. Yeah,
they're very protective. Yeah, and then there's what the children on that side, right? Because I still look into that. I will see some shows, the school, but end of the day, when I need to make the decision, they start to be, so maybe let's wait for graduate.
Yeah.
Something like this.
That's right. I mean, back to the point that, because I grew up in China, we have very much the similar systems, I mean, until the day I finished my college entry exam, I have no idea which school I want to go. I have no idea which major I should pick.
Yeah.
Literally, you get 3 days to pick which school you want to go and which major you're gonna in. That's very, kind of a depressing process because kids are so into exam, making the perfect score, but without really thinking about who they want it to be, what kind of a passion they want to follow. They just don't have time and the freedom or even framework for them to follow to really identify which passion they want to go on. But in the US, they will think, you come to the school, we want to treat you as a human, not a student. That's a huge difference being a student and being a humans. Oftentimes we are into kind of a student mindset. Student means you have a better score, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be as efficient as possible when you do the math. Right?
Yes.
You can memorize all the words. But as a human, study is just only one part of it, right? You want it to be a more polite. You want it to be a more passionate about certain things. What kind of a social impact you want to make, right? Not just saying what kind of major job you want to do, right? You want to do some other things. You want to make yourself to be an interesting and a socially positive figure to the societies. This is how the U.S. system is about. Yes. Then translate to some sort of a kind of a misunderstanding going abroad, because oftentimes when the parents here in Vietnam, same thing in China, when they think about sending kids to the U.S., especially younger age, they think about test scores, right? Curriculum, right? Like, what kind of matriculation they can go to, right? And those are important. Definitely, those are very important piece of the U.S. system. But more importantly, you have to think about what kind of framework or supporting system the U.S. boarding school can provide you become better persons. For example, right? The U.S. is very into sports and extracurricular. It's so much into the sports, probably beyond our imaginations. If you walk into a boarding school, the thing that you'll see definitely is not a classroom. It's definitely the sports field, like football, swimming, all sorts of these things. Because I think, going through this kind of sports, which is not really an option in Vietnam, in China, people just say, that's kind of secondary. Right?
It's not really important.
Not important at all.
Yeah.
I remember when I was high school, we used to have like a once a week kind of sports practice.
Yeah.
Then become like they cut down like once a month.
Yeah.
And the last year they say, okay, forget about it. Sports out. It's all about exam.
Yeah, it's all
a waste of time.
And literature.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But in the U.S., I'm especially talking about high school, college, even beyond. They're so into the sports. They literally speaking, after 2:30 p.m. every day, you have to do some sports or have to do some sort of extra curriculum for 2 or 3 hours. So U.S. system usually have 3 semesters. Each semester you got to pick different sports. Winter you have winter sports. Maybe, for example, that you might have hockeys. Spring you have some sort of field hockeys. You may have some lacrosse. And then you have 4th semester you have some other kind of a cool activity. Right? Cool. So they kind of force you. Maybe force is not the right word to say it. Somehow you kind of being encouraged to try different sports. I've just seen a lot of the kids, and the very first thing they will share with me is, whenever I go to U.S. school, I got to try something I never tried it before. Even I never heard the name of that sports. Because I was in this lunch meeting today with a couple of Vietnamese boarding students. I asked them the same question. They say, yeah, I tried something like, lacrosse, I tried something field hockey, even hockey. Which is definitely not available here in Saigon because it's such hot weather, right? So they got tried to different things. And through this process, you're going to play with team players. You basically become a tougher kind of a version of yourself, mentally and physically. This is very important. I think studying in the U.S. boarding school, you don't want to think that that's a very easy way, to go through. It's very tough. People are working so hard, not just academically, right? You do the sports very well, extracurricular very well. They're just such a perfect person. You have to be very hard to make sure that you will stand out. So this is a lot of stress, but how you can build a better person. Going through this sports program is one of the best way, especially for the younger person, like 15, 16 years old. If you become 30 years old, the sports become like you're not going to build anything mentally. It can a little bit. I think that when a kid is still young, everything is kind of start to forming up a little bit. So I think so that sports is very, very important. But all I want to say is going to boarding school, keep this word. It's all about experience. It's not just making a better student. It's making better humans. So experience, not the studies, which I think is very
not always study.
It's not about study. For example, right? So you might actually living in the dorm with a roommate from Africa. They may speak their own language. They're eating totally different foods. The way they're looking different things, so different from yours. So you often going to run into some conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
it's like through into the life and dealing with the.
That's right. I mean, as you said, you grew up from a lot, right?
Yes.
When you come over to Saigon, you may see something different.
Yes.
Same thing happened to me, right? I grew up in China, a secondary city, and I moved to Beijing for my college for 4 years. I clearly remember moments, not the one moment, many moments that you see kind of a conflicts, a different perspective. At the very beginning, you feel not a good experience. But once you get over it, you become a person with multiple different perspective. You start realizing, hey, people just living differently. We have to respect that, right? This is how the American culture is about, right? There's the big melting pot, right? Different things. Like, for example, New York City has more than 800 languages spoken on the street. 800 languages, right? So I'm saying, like, by doing this, and you become a person who have different perspectives, which is so important, right?
Yes, I totally agree. And also specifically, they should have those perspectives and experience in life as soon as. I was like during the time I'm living in Vietnam, for example, right? Yeah. I was a very not really good student, but in the ways like the sun drawing, the environment, the school teaching us like follow the same. It's like we are the robot, like in any class we need to be true. Yeah. It's assembly line. Yeah. It's less bored as you think. And also like the student, what they think about, they just like keep studying. They come from the first class to 12th grade. Then after that, boom, it's university. So they have more option. Should you study in agriculture or economic or something? They have no idea. No idea, yeah. Yeah, so for us, like for people like us, we follow. We don't know, are we good on technology, on art or something. So people, again, listen to the parent, listen to the friend. Parents usually get experience from their generations, right? Yes. Ask them whether AI or computer is a good thing for me. Yeah. Parents have yes. You point a good point, I think, because the Asian kind of education system doesn't really allow you to make mistakes. Yeah, right. I think people who are living in Vietnam for a long time and they follow the Vietnam education structure, they don't really have the opportunity to find out what they really like. So, for example, for some time really into with technology and something, but they are forced to study something biology. Why they study biology? Because maybe their family, like the mother and dad, working for some center or something. Right. Exactly. Yeah, so it's like, this is not a good way because family genetic is good, but it doesn't mean like you give me the own opportunity just only one life. Sure. And I think for people in the US and also all the country, they grow up and they facing with many struggle things, every single things, and also they have a lot of like picture points of view. So they more or less they realize what they really want, who they want to be. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that part of the words that you will hear most in the private school, high school in the United States is keep trying. Nothing is wrong, nothing is right. You might have to try it before you can really find out what you really love. Because Asian culture is afraid to be kind of fail or something. Very lose your face, kind of like that. Yeah. But also, but people living in this kind of environment, you still need some sort of a large kind of supporting framework for you to try different things. When I say that is, like Vietnam is a China school as well, especially the public sectors. They do not have a lot of after-school clubs. And right? They do not have very strong. That's when we need to go to another subsidiary lesson. Exactly, right. It's primarily maybe making another mass kind of practice or something. So they do not have an extra curriculum. They do not have a sports. They do not have like a community service. They do not have, different way being taught in different class settings. They just don't have these things. I mean, how can kids can try things? There's no way they can try it, right? And usually it's more like it's called like in the US what we call the cookie cutter kind of process, making the cookies right like this. Yeah, every people kind of similar, I know like each people kind of struggling
but you still have to follow that kind of cookie cutter kind of process. And you don't give them a lot of opportunity to try different things, and all of a sudden they get millions of college, right? Because you have different majors, you have to choose, you have to pick something that you have to stick with in remaining rest of your life, and within 3 days. That's the case for me. You have to choose school and a major in 3 days. So I think just don't have that kind of stuff in the system here, in China as well.
One more thing I want to mention is about the ability to survive. I would say, in Vietnam we often call someone's like mama boy. That's like it's just not like someone just follow the rule from parents, and they don't really like
not very independent.
Yeah, not very independent. So in Vietnam, right, I think most of people we will stay with parents until we go to university. If we need to go to another province, so for example, like someone from the countryside, then they have the university in Ho Chi Minh. That is the first time they try to be independent.
Correct.
And then many single things happen, like you need to stay with your roommates, like come from different
provinces. Never had that.
Yeah, it's just never be perfect, It's even like you live with your parents, sometimes you also have the conflict. But like you live with the strangers, so of course you guys cannot like own the similar way and happy life together.
A lot of first times.
Yeah, very lots of first time just happens when they from 18.
Correct.
It's too late, right?
You already become adult. I think you raise a good point that independent or being independent is one of the probably few reasons why a lot of parents want to send the kids to oversee a younger age. When you say become like the age to go to college around like 18 or 19 years old, you may probably already pass the best period of time in your life to become independent, right?
Yes.
So that's why a lot of private school, boarding school, day school, and it's called college prep schools, preparatory schools. Because having studied and lived 4 years in the high school gonna better prepare you to go to college, because you already probably know how to deal with the situation in the roommate, or know how to ask for help in the school settings, how you can deal with some conflict, even you kind of travel in and out of school, like taking the bus. That's kind of detailed things.
Yeah, but it's just a mini challenge in life.
But you're living with your parents. Everything in the Asian culture is parents want to take care of everything for you.
Yeah,
you just focus on study. That's the only job you have. You get the best of school and not take the rest.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm not American parents would think about how they raise their kids. They still say, hey, do your laundries, right? Walk the dog, mow the lawn, to basically cutting the grass on the backyard, and do the dishes, Those things is your daily life. So that's why I think American kids usually is more independent, because when they're young, their parents really want to make sure they will do this kind of things, and also they be encouraged thinking about independent thinking. Because when you mention about independent, that's more about outside, but it's more important how you can think about independently yourself.
Yeah, you be brave inside.
Correct, right? Because if there's cookie cutting, means that everybody thinking about the same things, but in the US, I think you are being encouraged to think about out of the box. That this is very important, right? That's why I think will make America is kind of interesting country. Is they always have new ideas.
Yeah,
is because that's the country, or they have the soil that can produce a lot of interesting people with interesting ideas. Maybe 99% of them failed, but that 1% survive. That creates a Elon Musk, right? Bill Gates, person that can create a new industries. Even like for Elon Musk, it can make it humanity to next level by going to Mars or something like that. You cannot even think about why as young kids want to dream about sending the people to Mars. That's ridiculous. I mean, go get your math. Don't think that this was stupid ideas. So I think that's kind of thinking independently, or maybe using the right term is called critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking. Oh yeah. Actually, like I just met one of my friends. he's also American.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vietnamese student that's like raised up in US. And when we are in the deep conversation, we also say like critical thinking is something Asian people lack of. This is not because of the ability they cannot be critical, but because they are not have the opportunity since they were young to think critically.
Okay.
So I think sometimes it's good when parents try to protect, try to guide their kid into the right way. Let's say in US, right, people have more freedom. It means like parents have less control under the way the kid going. And then when they're going wrong, it's not really easy to fit it. However, at another side, right, for the American way, it's like more independent. So it's like you create the environment for the kid can fly. So it's also good. But for me, I'm a fan of something in the middle. So I know that parents like you are the Chinese race. Also, you bring the Chinese culture, right?
Yeah.
That you raise up in US. I believe that you raise up your kid in US also. So there is some naturally should be in the balance on the way you raise up your kid.
That's right. I mean, it's such a great question. I think as Asian people living in the United States, it's also very tough to balance off these two things because you're always stuck in the middle. But
I think stuck in the middle is the good way if you pick two positive things.
Right, but in certain cases, you have to pick a left or right. Middle is not an option for you. I think in China, we have this culture called the zhongyong. That means always pick the middle one. So because we don't want to confront with people with different opinions. I think back to this kind of boarding school, private high school setting here is being a protect parents that usually will not have people like kids to kind of get into big troubles. Give you some, don't do that. But in the US, I mean, the boarding school also have some sort of the bottom lines, which means that you cannot really cross over certain bottom lines. I'll give you an example. A lot of Asian kids, Chinese kids, I'm not sure the Vietnamese kids, they usually will get into kind of a trouble because they maybe the academic habit is not great. In the US, plagiarism is such a big thing. It's just zero tolerance. If you did that, go home. That. Many years ago, I got a chance to talk to one of my friends. I'm sorry, it's actually a student attending one of boarding school in the US, and he even told me that if you did a paper last semester, and this semester you're gonna write another paper citing some of your comments or some material from your previous essay, you have to make sure that you put in notes, say, I'm citing my own things.
Okay.
That restrict. If you don't do that, you're going to have a very bad grade on that. So all I want to say is they have very restricted bottom lines, and like drugs, alcohol and some other couple other things in the campus. It's a zero tolerance. If you did that, you go home. So I've seen a lot of kids actually, just because they even don't know why I got kicked out of schools. And these days, for example, a racist kind of comments is also very interesting things. You don't want to say something very in a racist way. So I think that this is one of the potential kind of risk of going to US. It's because you don't know the kind of local culture. You think that's okay. I've been doing this a long time here. Well, what does that matter? I'm just going online, pick some cool kind of quotes I just use directly on my essays. But it's not allowed to do that in the US. Right? You need to be very restricted on that. So knowing the culture, knowing the potential kind of setbacks is one piece of the homework you should do before you send the kids. Because otherwise, I don't think it's fair. A lot of kids are still young. They don't know how serious the situation is. They just made a mistake and all of a sudden they have to buy a ticket and get back home. Or maybe transfer to a different schools.
Yeah.
So I think
that's true.
You're right. I mean, we're more protective. Sometimes American is a little bit too far in terms of freedoms.
Yeah.
I've seen something I don't agree, you know, as Asian parents, I cannot understand why they're doing that. So we have to keep kind of learning how to make the balanced approach, and it's a lifelong kind of process. I'll say that.
Yeah, but I think like I mean now it's like the world is like the flat, you know, and also like Asians have open mindset.
Yeah,
they will learning the good things from American style and hopefully vice versa. Yeah, so talking about just back to the story like education and study story in Vietnam. Maybe I share with you, but like before also my mom doesn't allow me to go abroad.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom said, if I send you to study abroad, it means I lost you. You maybe like get married with some guy in the US or something, and then I lost you at all. At that time, my mom is so scared about losing her daughters because there is no phone. Like we need to call by sorry, I forgot the word name, but it's like the international line, which is cost pretty much. We're gonna see each other via the video, right?
Yeah.
There is no free internet connection or something, so it means sending their daughters abroad. It means they lost unless they find a way to come there. But nowadays, my mom changing mindset 100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like people would think about what is the future of the kids when they study and that they are allowed to go back anytime. But when they come to another new world, so they have another life basically, and they can survive, how they can really think about the happiness in their own. It's not about the happiness for their family anymore.
That's right, and this is called in kind of individualism. I think you're right. I mean, very high level, you know, once you have a kid, does kids really belong to you? That belong to some other things? That's a good question for the debate, right? I think once kids has become adults, I think kids become part of the societies. You know, they have the full rights to pursue their own kind of a passion, happiness, you know, even commitment. But I think you know, have to think for this kind of technology, make it kind of a distance not an issue anymore, right? To be able to do the phone call, Zoom call, whatever the cost. So that's good, actually. Sometimes, you know, just people gonna hold your kids. Parents want to hold your kids as long as possible, right? You got parents will be heavily involved in which school to go, which major to go, which boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife they choose, how many kids they should have, which school for their grandson, daughter to go. And there's so many things they have to worry about whole life.
Yeah.
You know, some point you have to say goodbye. That's your life. You know, I'm watching you. Yes. I'm helping you, but not necessarily kind of doing everything under my power to change that with you. So that's kind of culture things that probably younger generation Asia may become more westernized. Maybe they'll kind of have some different opinions. So I think things is changing, just slowly. I think that's the nature of the culture change, as I mentioned early on. I just want to spend like a few minutes talking about one thing I think is very important. As I mentioned that, you know, I don't want to paint a very rosy picture of going broad, especially at the younger age. You may see a lot of good things about this. Independent, you know, you have a lot of good experience, having better perspective. And then one thing is also very important, you have a very strong networking opportunity going abroad. Yes. Right? You got to see a lot of cool peoples. But also that comes with some cons, right? Everything is not always 100% right. I mean, a good grade still comes something you probably never expected. A couple of things that I think I wanted the audience to know about, especially going broad at a younger age. What are the potential problems? One is, you know, you will face a potential conflict. When I say conflict, that means could be a conflict between you and your parents. Okay, that will happen a lot. Because, you know, when the kids they have, I would say maybe they have brainwashed by some new things. They always have some conflicts. You know, that is very, very things. And sometimes maybe, you know, you may have some conflict between like the current version of you and the future version of yourself. You know, you think might change it in a positive way, or maybe you never gonna agree about something in the future yourself. it just some sort of, like a conflict will show up.
Yeah, but I think is whether you study abroad or not, it still happens. It's like about the generation gap.
Yeah, and come down by this kind of a, different kind of environment. Right?
Yeah, right. And also like when you are the teenagers and you are growing up, right? So there is many things happening.
I think I'll give you an example. In some of the conflicts, I've seen a lot of students going to U.S. boarding school. A big number of them actually say, "Hey, I want to try something that I never tried before and like it." For example, in Asia, parents usually want their kids to go to the STEM or technology, whatever the major is, that stable job, that is. But some kids actually go into boarding school and they come back and say, hey mom, I really like art history. Can I make that as my major? And the parent will say, what? Art history can't make us living by yourself? Are you nuts?
Yeah.
But the kids maybe just say, hey, that's my passion. I never realized I love that. Could you support me? Well, regardless of support or not, I'm going to do it anyway. So, so you will see that kind of conflict.
Yes.
Deciding what passion, major to choose, because the kids got exposed to different possibilities, right? So that might happen. That highly likely will happen in terms of conflict between you and the parents, so you and the kids in different stages of their lives. When you send the kids, that's very important. You have to prepare for that. Are you okay with that? When they come back looking Saigon, maybe they have a different perspective. That's maybe the beauty of it.
Yeah, that is totally makes sense. I know how my mom suffered with me the times.
Exactly. And also, the other kind of con that could come up is you don't want to underestimate the commitment for this kind of ventures. What I say commitment is, if you send the kids to overseas 14, 15 years old, there's no way you can make a U-turn, which means kids going to U.S. school, if something goes wrong or they pick the wrong school or somehow, you cannot just take them out and come back to the Vietnam education system. It's not fair for the kids. They're not going to survive.
I think that's happened quite a lot, huh?
Yeah,
so some case like this.
Yeah, but sadly, some people have to do that. But what I'm saying, ideally, you want to avoid that. You have to realize this is a very big commitment, not just financial commitment. It could be some psychologically, whether you're ready to support your kids for 8, 10, 12 years down the road. And usually there's no term that you can say, that doesn't work out, take him back. It's very hard.
Yeah, it's very complicated. I know the case, one of my friends, there's the couple, and then the husband wants to send a kid to overseas, right?
Yeah.
But the wife is like, no.
No? Okay.
Yeah. So in a way, they still manage to send a kid out. But after 1 year, the wife said, oh, I'm so miss my son. I need to go with my sons. Or maybe like you just send them back. And then like she starts to be like get mad, like that crazy, cry every day, something like that.
She doesn't want to come back.
No, I mean like the wife.
The wife. Okay.
The wife, yeah, just crying every day. I miss my son. Please send me back or something. So my friends, as the husband, he needs to make a decision.
So
because like
it's still happening right now, or they already made a decision?
The son is already come back to Vietnam.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and study in like international school or something like that.
That must be a very tough decision for him to come back.
Yes, it's very tough decision for the son, and also like for my friend as a husband. It's the parents, they are not really prepared in terms of the emotional feeling when they send the kids.
Commitment, right?
Yeah, it's the commitment. It's not only about the financial issue.
No.
But it's about like how strong you are. You can stand when you're sending your kid far away. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that must be a very, very tough decision for the family to make, especially the son side, right? I mean, when his friends are asking why are you going back to home, he cannot just say,
because my mom miss me.
That's very weird. So I think, but there's some way that actually, I usually would think a good way to at least to have yourself to be more fully committed.
Yes.
First of all, I think you can definitely have the kids to join some summer schools. Especially in maybe 7 or 8 or 9th grade. Send them to very good and formal kind of a summer program with the boarding options for 4 weeks or something. I know there's a little bit cost, but you get a chance to really know whether my son or daughter love that environment. And then usually when they come back, the kids usually will be more motivated. They say, hey, this is the environment I want to go to. This is what I want to do. Once the kids is more committed, everything become easier. I mean, your friend's situation is not very common. Usually it's the other way around is, kids that keep crying, don't want to stay there anymore because, they suffer because it's too much homework, too much social stress and stuff like that. But, going there for some summer program is a good way to test the water a little bit. The second way is usually, if you ever get a chance to go to the United States, please do arrange some school to visit. Having the kids with you to tour the campus, to check out the classroom, just by yourself. So you have a much better sense what kind of environment your kids actually going to be studying. I'm not sure your friend's wife will ever get a chance to really looking into that environment. If she get a chance to really see the kids actually is happy, she will be less worried.
Yes.
Maybe everything she just imagine how suffering, that the kids is. Yeah. And then say, I want to take him back. As long as you can visit the school, you see by your eye, to hear by your ear, then everything probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the school actually also welcome a lot of parents to go visit the campus as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just many different scenarios happen in Vietnam, I have heard. Yeah. But I think mainly, it depends on the financial status of those family as well.
Yeah, sure.
Some of them will really invest and check out all of the school before they make the decision. But some of them, even the parents haven't go to US, but they have family members, they have friends there, and then they just send the kid there. They can check out by video, by picture, but they're not really been there.
No.
Yeah, it's just so dangerous, I think. The investment from the beginning for check out all the things, and at least you feel that, where your son or your daughter will live there.
For 4 years.
Yeah, this is very important.
Probably even, some other parents never actually look at or check it, just piece of paper handed over by somebody else, they just send the kids directly, which is more dangerous. But you're right. I'm thinking about this situation that if you want to invest, so you're living in Saigon and you want to buy some investment property in Hanoi. You probably want to go fly over there and look at what the building is located, where the surrounding neighborhood, Then you sign a contract, right?
Yeah, US is another.
When you send your son, daughter, to a country which is kind of a 17,000 kilometers away, you might want to do that. Yes. You will not regret some money you put in upfront, some time you spend it. So I would I really want to educate the market to tell the importance of doing that. Back to my kind of 5 or 7 years ago, that we actually even organized some sort of a group touring with the parents. So you can take a few families to go tour the school, to get them to talk to the admission peoples, kind of really to know each other very well. Those parents are more likely to have a smooth transaction for the son and daughters. And the last thing that school wanted to see is when you enroll a student, 2 weeks later, the kids say, I don't like that. This is different from what I'm seeing or what I heard, from other peoples. I want to leave. I want to quit. I want to go different schools. This is probably the last thing that school wanted to see. It's a lot of uncertainties and stuff involved. So I would say do the summer program. Possibility that you can also go to visit school somehow. Even if you have your relative to check out, is even better. Not the best option. It's better than just looking some other things. So I think I just want to share the audience some potential kind of setbacks and cons relating sending kids to overseas at a younger age. You want to know these potential problems. Throughout our conversation so far, I haven't touched anything about how you can make your math homework better. This is important, but this big question probably is more important. But I have to say that the best way to get this information is through the students. So that's why I'm actually partnering with some current Vietnamese students to form some student-led kind of organizations.
Oh, it's like you build a community.
Yes, a student union kind of community. So we already have 4 or 5 founding members. I met them this noon. We had a lunch together. The guys, the kid is Jerry. He's a very cool kid. I'm so glad to know him, and he's gonna organize this. And July 1st, 2 weeks from today, we're gonna do our first offline events. Basically, here's what I want. I think it's gonna be very cool. I'm very excited about this. I like all the events organized by agent and consultants. We're not gonna have you to talk about one particular schools, what the requirement is, TOEFL score, tuitions. I wanna have you to listen to 4 or 5 schools on the stage, sharing about their experience, talking about the pros and cons, talking about some challenges they face, talking about how they have become a better person through their own kind of life storytelling. And I think this is the community building process I want to do. I myself is not enough, but I want to have the student to go with us, because usually the parents and students love to hear what other students, the whole process themselves. And so I'm very excited about the event, and hopefully that will become a routine event. So these students, once they expand their network in the United States, maybe 50 kids can join this whole community, representing the Vietnam student bodies, and also kind of to increase the influence in the boarding school as well. Because some of the boarding school I heard about from today's conversations only have a few Vietnamese students. I think the Vietnam market deserves more attentions, which means it should have more student members for top boarding schools. So I want them maybe to work on that agenda as well. If you form a community and organization, you can tell the school that this is a growing market. You should spend more time, effort, come to our countries. We can help you to do that, to promote it. Recruit more students, because I think these students, I think it is the driving force, at least one of the driving force for Vietnam to progress. To move to the next stage. These are the people who has very good English, have very good networking, has very good, record. They can bring a lot of stuff when they come back to Vietnam. Right? So that's kind of a long run. I think these kids are very good. I hope they can form this kind of, not necessarily building, not necessarily promoting my websites. I think they need to have that kind of platforms.
Yes. Impressive. Actually, I think you are doing, forget about the business or the startup or profitable or something, but you are well aware this is the long run changing people mindset in Vietnam. And
it's hard though. It's hard.
Yeah, actually it's really hard. It's not easy because firstly about the decision making to send a student abroad, right? Send the kid abroad is not only about the financing status. They need to prepare this at least 3-4 years in advance. Firstly, secondly, is about the changing people mindsets. So I think in return, right, you start to get the result. Hopefully, 3 or 5 years later.
It takes time, as I always tell my friend that, I like it to do something that can change the world, but maybe what is too big, I can change some pieces here in Vietnam. So that's one thing I think I'm very excited about, the student-led kind of organizations, for them to talk to the parents. I think that's very powerful. I really think that's much powerful than I taking stage telling my stories. They're the people in the stage, the center of the stage. I'm just helping to facilitate that.
Thank you, Xi, for taking the time to join my podcast. I really enjoy talking to you as always, and I feel grateful to have you here and share with us such insight and interesting topics, whether it is the parent considering sending kids abroad or the young individuals like myself to see how to raise our future kids, or even for the kids to see their future path. You bringing the new projects coming to Vietnam and changing the perceptions of how to send students study abroad. I know that this part is not easy. It is the long-term investment as well. But I wish you all the best. Not only about the commercial thing, but it's also about your wish to make the impact on social. So thanks again for coming here. And whenever you come back to Vietnam, I'm happy to invite you a drink.
Thanks, Leanne. I think that was a huge honor to be here. This actually was my first podcast in Vietnam. I think the beauty of visiting a new country is that you're going to experience many first times. This certainly is one of the most memorable moments. So I think at Findingschool, we are quite committed to this project with a very unique mission to really empower more families to make an informed decision about studying abroad, especially at a very young age, right? By providing necessary knowledge, data, and the tool sets for them. I'm actually fully aware that this is not going to be very easy at all, but it is going to be impacting the local community and the society in a very positive way. I thank Leanne. I thank you for this great opportunity to share my personal observation and knowledge experience to your audience. I'm looking forward to new opportunity in the future. Thank you. Bye.